This location is sitting in.
Oye, this is Alex Torres junto Omar of Trifulca Wrestling Media, and in this episode of TWP Interviews, we have a huge guest directly from Panama. He wrestled in WWE, NXT, and MLW. He was also two-time part of the famous PWI magazine Top 500 Wrestlers of the Planet. Right now, he's currently the heavyweight GWE champion of the Global Wrestling Evolution in Panama. And also, he runs the GWE Wrestling Academy as well. So, the Turkish wrestler, actor, stuntman, and wrestle coach, Vandal Ortegon. Hey.
Hey, thank you for being here with us, Vandal.
What's up, guys, man? Thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate it. And you guys seem to do your homework. That was a good little bio that you did. A little good introduction, man. That was good.
No, trust me. We always do our homework because we value what in your case what you did in your wrestling career and yes, we did our homework and every time we were researching new things about you, we are amazed of all the things that you accomplished, so this will be a nice interview. So, Omar, start with the first question.
Okay, Vandal, please tell us when did you become a wrestling fan? What was the product that you began seeing by that time, and what wrestlers do you like?
All right. Before I answer that question, though, back to what you were saying, man, that's a great point. Like, I definitely have done a lot, and it's been a 20-year career, man, and it's like I'm just getting started, and I have a lot left in the tank. Not to ramble, but at the same time, I wanted to address that before getting into these questions. What got me into wrestling, man? I didn't grow up watching wrestling like everybody else. I was a normal kid. Around 13 years old, I was flipping through the channels, and I caught the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where it was Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold in the cage with Hugo Savinovich narrating. And I mean, the build-up and the promo prior to the match just automatically hooked me. Like, I knew it was some form of entertainment, but what these guys were saying and doing, and then when they came out and did what they did in the cage, for me, that was a turning point as a kid at 13 to where I fell in love with pro wrestling. But I didn't grow up watching it as a kid. I didn't play with any toys, wrestling toys when I was a kid. I didn't really have access to that. My dad was Turkish. My mom was Swedish. They were working jobs. And we just didn't really have access to that. So it wasn't until I was 13, and specifically the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view, that got me into wrestling and really changed my life.
And what a time, because that was an excellent event and one of the favorite of our personal events of WWF.
Yeah, no, that was a great event, and it changed, like I said, the landscape of my life. And then, since then, obviously, I study the craft, and I go back on the WWE Network, and I watch all the old school stuff, and I catch up on my history. But that was the match at that point in time that got me into pro wrestling, and that made me say, like, I want to do this. I didn't even know what it was, but I knew I wanted to do it and be a part of it.
Don't you miss how they cut the promos and how before every match in those Attitude Era pay-per-views they used to show you like the backstory of each match? It doesn't matter if you're opening the show or you're in the middle or you're the main event. You don't see that often in these days, right?
Yeah, I just think, I agree to an extent, but I'm also biased. Like, when I was wrestling with the WWE, it was recent. It was in the late 2013 to about 2018. So everything had evolved at that point. And honestly, there's so much talent now that they don't have time to do those vignettes or promos like they used to and really invest in certain characters because the locker room is so big. But that being said, it also caters to a different audience. Back then they catered to 13 to 38-year-olds.
You're right.
Where now it's families, they're selling merchandise, it's little kids. So, maybe the attention span isn't the same. Maybe little kids aren't trying to see a 15-minute build-up for a match, So I understand why it's done. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of the Attitude Era. That's what got me into wrestling. But I also understand that the business evolves, and I also evolve with the business. So it is what it is, I guess,
No, of course, yeah, and I agree with you, with what you're saying. Hey, and just before you became part of the industry, do you tend to go to live shows, or when you were in town and everything?
Before I started wrestling training, I mean, you got to think this was 2001, so I was 16 years old. I was still in high school. But before I actually started training, I went to a couple WWE live shows in the area. I think I checked out like 2 independent shows in the area. But I knew at that point, when I was 16 and I learned that I could sign up with parental consent, I knew what I wanted to do. And I've been doing it for the last 20 years. I'm almost 36 and I'm still wrestling at a high level, training at a high level, and wrestling all over the world. So
cool.
Doing something right.
Yeah, I know. Omar.
And when exactly do you decide to become part of the industry?
16 years old, man. 3 years after. I mean, honestly, I knew that night at 13 watching St. Valentine's Day Massacre
That you want to do that for the rest of your life.
But I also knew realistically that at 13 in the United States, you can't really sign up for a school. And it's probably also not smart because everybody's 21 and older, 6'5", 300 pounds.
Yeah, and you're a little kid.
You're a little kid. So I waited till I was 16. Drove around, found a wrestling school, the Rusty Brooks School of Hard Knocks. He recently passed, God rest his soul, but good trainer. Learned a lot from him in the school down there. And at 16, I was the only one in my class that was like 100 pounds. I looked like a kid, like I wasn't believable. Like I said, everybody was 6'5", 300 pounds. I mean, I was the bump dummy for a year. I was a referee for another year. I mean, these kids around the world, some of these guys, they don't know how easy they have it. So I went through hell, but at 16, I started with parental consent. And when I got in the ring, like I knew that's what I wanted to be a part of. I knew it was like a home, like I was comfortable. I was comfortable in the ring. And it was a comfort that I've never really felt before up until that moment. So 16, I started, and it took about 10 years of hard work in Florida and the surrounding states before I started traveling the world and making a name for myself. And then, fast forward, long story short, fast forward to the WWE Cruiserweight Classic, the NXT stuff that I did, the MLW, the few months in Japan. So it all ended up paying out, and now I'm living and training and wrestling full time in Panama. So it's been really good to me, which is fortunate in this business.
Yes, it's been very rewarding for you, and I ask this question for, to other wrestlers that I interview, and it's funny because, we already interviewed some of the alumni, of the GWE Academy that are currently wrestling in GWE, and they tell us their first day of training, in their life, and they see, okay, the next day I didn't wake up, the next
like
day
hell.
I was throwing up and stuff like that. In your case, at 16 years old, do you remember how was your first day of training, and if the next days you were able to to get out of bed?
I don't necessarily remember my first day of training, but I remember, 20 years later, my body still hurts. The business it's a tough business. But that's, if it was easy, everybody would do it, and that's the thing. Like
Exactly.
everybody can buy gear. Everybody can put gear on. But if you don't train like you want it, if you don't look like you hit a gym, the business isn't for you. Like it's a grueling business. And that's the thing with GWE. No offense to their past training, but it's just I bring something very new and different. A lot of things I learned at the WWE Performance Center, we do at the GWE Academy now. And I also teach these guys it's not just about wrestling, man. It's about connecting with your audience, storyline, footwork, facials, your selling.
The whole package.
And the hard camera, yeah, these guys need to learn the entertainment aspect. And, GWE is going through some big changes now, too, where they have some streaming deals interested in stuff like that. So these guys need to learn how to work the hard camera and not just work for the 50 people that are in the audience. And that's no knock on GWE. With the pandemic, they're only allowed a certain number of people in the audience. But even if they had 200 or 2,000 people at the shows, you're working for more people. Like the camera is the camera is your ticket out of, like I tell them, it's your ticket out of Panama. Like if you guys want to be exposure in the bigger companies, and when you go to bigger companies, that's all they really care about. I mean, yeah, wrestling is the bread and butter, but the entertainment aspect, how you talk, not just what you say, but how you deliver. So not to ramble, but there's a lot of different things that I'm teaching these guys here that I kind of wish I learned before I went to those platforms and stages. But not to toot my horn, but they're in a fortunate situation, and the guys that do show up to train are definitely getting better, and those that don't are still shitting the bed.
So basically, when GWE Wrestling Academy started, was with another instructor, right? And now when you took, the role of, of the head coach, what, like you said, you changed the type of philosophy, so all those wrestlers that you're training right now, did they handle the switch of coaches good, they don't know, they know right now that you have a different view, that they will go to the next step?
So for me, I wasn't here when there was another coach. I started wrestling here about 2 years ago. I never met the other coach.
Okay.
They were kind of on their own for the last 2 years. I don't know when the other coach left. But I know that we were different. Not that he did anything wrong, but I think they focused more on conditioning, which is muy importante. It's very important. And wrestling, which is good. But it's not just about wrestling. And if these guys want to make money in this business, they need to learn how to entertain.
It's a package.
And it's something that they haven't learned. And I think a lot of guys take it well. You have the locker room leaders and the generals in GWE that show up to training every day, and they put in work and they really want to succeed. And then you have the older guys that are maybe the old generation that think they don't have to train, and what can Vandal teach me? And it's just a piss poor attitude that's going to keep them in Panama wrestling for whatever shit shows they decide to wrestle. Excuse my language.
Hey, in podcast world, you're allowed to, so don't worry.
Perfect. Yeah, so it's. I mean, you have a lot of hungry guys, and I don't know. You'd have to ask them. Certain guys, I'm sure, feel a certain way, and maybe the other guy was, I don't know. But at the same time, I don't just focus on lucha libre. Like, I focus on American style, Japanese style. I want these guys to be well diverse in everything. So when they move on to bigger companies, or they get that, they get the call, like we say, it's easy to get the call. It's hard to get the call back. So that's what I'm preparing these guys and girls for. And the last 6 months I've been here, I mean, the people that show up to training, you can tell, and the shows are getting better. And at the same time, like, when I start traveling again in the world, if their names ever get brought up, the ones that train and bust their ass, I will 100% pull for, and that's just how the business works.
Exactly.
But yeah, you have the older guys, I'm sure, that stopped training because I took over, or, they're into the old 90s lucha libre. Like, I understand the old school mentality, the kayfabe, but we're not here to insult the fans' intelligence. Like, they know it's entertainment at the end of the day. And if they want to be entertained, they watch wrestling. And if not, they go watch something else. But some people feel a certain way about it. For me, I don't care. Like, I'm here, I wrestle full time. Every Saturday we have a show, and then we train 3 days a week at the academy. Like you said, I'm the head coach there. And I also train with the kids. Like, I'm not just one to point and tell them what to do. I like to show them. So I like to lead by example, man. And I feel like that's what these kids need. And a lot of them take advantage of it, and some of them don't.
So and talking about, training the kids and having the opportunity to have maybe their first matches and everything. I know it's been 20 years, but do you remember how was your first match? It was when
my first match was god awful. I mean, I was 16 years old. They put me in a mask because I looked like a kid. It wouldn't have been believable to just go out there. I think my gear was absolute shit. And I shit the bed. My first match, I mean, I was nervous, but within a year or two, I started wrestling for some of the biggest companies in Florida and really establishing a name for myself. So like around 17, 18, they gave me like the cruiserweight title. I got real cocky. I brought it to school. Like it was a big
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That
it was
was
a
man,
big
that
thing.
was
I learned the hard way though, man. But I trained with guys like you got to think MVP was one of my mentors. We trained a lot. We traveled the roads together before he was signed. A lot of guys in this 20 years, I've wrestled a lot of guys that have made it to some type of level of company. And I've had good matches with them. Like I said, I continue to wrestle at a high level. I continue to train at a high level. And I love giving back to the kids at the academy. I love, if they're willing to learn and really like some of them eat their pride and swallow your ego and understand that criticism is just to make you better. I think these guys can be great, and I think it's a good time for Panama wrestling. And I know we're still dealing with the pandemic. But at the end of the day, Pascal's he's a smart guy when it comes to business. He's a businessman, and we have a lot of things going behind the scenes. And I know there's some streaming deals in the works, so we'll see. But that being said, it's not just me that's holding the company. These kids got to step up. It's about the new generation. And we have a bunch of new students, man, and they're learning and they're training. But, it could take 6 months. It could take 2 years. It just depends how long, how long it takes for them to come forward and come along.
And evidently, it looks like you are a leader, leading by example, because when not so long ago, you gave the opportunity, to have a wrestling match with Pandora, that she's a girl, and for the title, for example, and seeing clips of the match to the social media,
and the history that was made for that match was a great history, a great entertainment.
I appreciate it. And, when they give me the ball, I take it and I hit it and I hit a home run with it. And that's just how I feel. For me, I'll tell you guys the truth. Like, I hate intergender wrestling. I don't hate it. I find it hard at times believable.
I don't blame you.
I think that when you have me wrestle a guy like Crush and we go 25 minutes balls to the wall, how do I follow that with, and it's not a knock on Pandora. It's just, it's tough for me to find. And WWE, I don't want to speak for them, but obviously you don't see intergender matches there.
No.
There's no intergender boxing. There's no intergender MMA. So I'm just more of a believability guy, where to me it was hard to get me to kind of agree with that and go with that. But at the same time, I'm a fan, maybe not of intergender wrestling, but I'm a fan of story. I'm a fan of what.
And you tell a great story there.
You sold the story. When we see the clip, you sold the story, and you make me believe that she have a chance.
Right, and that's the thing, right? It's a roller coaster, so it's believability. So you go from her having absolutely no chance because she's facing the world champion, who, let's face it, 20 years, 25 countries, 4 continents, WWE, some of the biggest companies in the world, versus Pandora, who's never been out of Panama. But that being said, she can work. She busts her ass. She trains. She constantly gets better.
And she's big for being a woman.
She's a bigger girl, right? She's not a pencil. And she's the Daniel Bryan of Panama. I mean, these fans love her. So if she's the ultimate baby face and I'm the ultimate heel, I mean, it's a matter of time before we come together. So I liked the story, and I liked how and I know they, Pascal, he's a little behind on airing the full matches, but I know the clips, it doesn't really do it justice. But we told a great story in the first match. Then we had a rematch in a street fight, which we told another great story. And it's just going to continue to get better. And that's the thing. You take the fans on a roller coaster. They in the beginning, there's no chance. And then towards the end, slip on a banana peel, something happens. Here's a chance. And now the crowd's back into it and they're alive. So I may not be the biggest fan of intergender. I think there are some great intergender matches that have happened. Me personally, I'm not a fan just because I'm a big believer in believability, man. I want it to be real, and I want the fans to buy a ticket to watch the Turkish sharpshooter asshole to get his ass kicked. And, I think for me being a bad guy here, I do a very good job. I have a lot of people hate me. They wait on me in the parking lot. Like, it's great. And
hey, that's the best reception you can get. So you're doing your job.
Man.
You are doing a great job when people say you, oh, te odio, maldito.
Yeah, I hear all that stuff. And the worst part is it usually comes from kids, man. So, but at the end of the day, man, Pandora's somebody who's earned her spot. After the first match, she took a beating and she definitely gained my respect. And I think that also made her a main event player. I think that now the fans respect her. The boys in the locker room respect her. I mean, we didn't just go out there and bullshit. Like I treated her like I treated everybody else. If you step in the ring with me, man, woman, child, grandfather, grandparent, if you step in the ring with me, I'm going to do to you what I do to everybody else. So she took it like she took punishment better than probably half of that locker room or most of that locker room would take. And she earned it, So am I having 5-star matches, the best matches of my life? No. Am I having 5-star stories? Yeah, absolutely. And these people are super into it. And I'm having a blast doing it, man, So at the same time, I don't know how long this is going to last. I plan on being here a few years, but who knows? I'm still in contacts with Japan. I left NXT on good terms, MLW on good terms. And like I said, I still talk to Japan from time to time. That may be my next move. But for now, for the next few years, I plan on continuing training these guys and girls and dominating Panama while also going to the United States from time to time, staying relevant and defending the GWE title and keeping them on the map and letting people, know, hey, GWE's out here in Panama and they're not playing.
Yeah. I agree with you, Omar.
You have been in the indie scene in companies like Future of Wrestling, Dragon Gate USA, NWA Florida, and other parts like MLW. What are your experience and what do you learn in all that companies that you have been for a long 20 years?
Well, that's the thing, man. You learn something from each company, and that's what I try to push on to these guys, because at the end of the day, you're going to get better when you work with different talent. You got to travel the world. You got to get exposure. You got to get your name out there, and that's exactly what I did. And the more I wrestled, sometimes you wrestle really good guys and sometimes they're real shit guys. But either way, it's a learning experience and you get better each time. I can't name specifics what I learned from each, WWE, more hard cam work, MLW, more footwork and facials, indies, more less is more, slow it down, stuff like that. But there's not something from each and every company unless it's a top company. Exactly. I mean, Japan, I learned that if you survive Japan, you can survive anywhere in the business. Like
that is my next question about Japan. So your wrestling experience in Japan. I know the trainings are hard and everything. And from other people that we interview in the past. So, both how was the training and how was having matches? In Japan. How the feedback of the crowd over there that is way different than here in the States.
Yeah, and that's why I also tell these guys they have to travel, man. Different crowds, different experiences. Japan was great, and it really tested you as an athlete. I'm training these guys 2-3 hours a day, 3 days a week. In Japan, you train 5-6 days a week, 6-7 hours a day, on top of setting up the ring for shows, taking it down for shows, and then you're wrestling 45-minute matches against guys that are trying to brutally beat the shit out of you. So Japan, it taught me, first, it made me ask myself, do I really want to be in this business? Because that's some tough shit up there. But once I got through the first week of Japan, the next couple months, man, it was a blessing. And I got to wrestle some of the top Japanese legends that I used to study. And I learned so much from those guys and how they train. And it's funny that you say these guys complain about the training down here, because it's hard. And I do a lot of stuff from the Performance Center and Japan, but it's toned down about 50%. I mean, when they go to Japan, they're going to be kissing my ass. Like, thank you for preparing me.
It's a different word right there.
It's a different world, man, and it's more of a sport in Japan. It's
Yes.
more less theatrics and more sport. There's good and bad with that, but at the same time, you know, the fans appreciate it so much more. In the States or a lot of places around the world, unless it's like Mexico or something, you say you're a pro wrestler, it's one of two ways it's going to go. Like, oh, real cool, or oh, that phony stuff. Like, but
Yeah.
you tell somebody in Japan you're a pro wrestler, no matter if they watch. Right. If they watch it or not, they're like, oh, please, let me buy you food. Let me take you to dinner. You know, let me take care of you. So it's highly, highly respected in Japan.
Yeah, I think that in Japan and Mexico are the two parts that the wrestling is like a religion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Japan is always a place that I plan on going back to and maybe, you know, one day moving there and wrestling full time there. You know, right now, Panama's the plan and I love what I do here. But I always told myself, you know, Japan's definitely going to do at least another tour of that. And it just makes you better, man. It really tests you as an athlete, not only the training, but the wrestling. It's 45 minutes of no break, just straight forearms to the neck and
cardio,
yeah.
a great cardio.
Cardio, but it's also, it's less theatrics, but it's more of a sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed my time in Japan, and I was the first and only Turkish wrestler to wrestle at Kurgan Hall. You know, I had my 27th birthday in Japan, so it's a special place to me, man.
Nice.
I can't wait to go back one day.
Well, and talking about something special, you know, around 2013, you start in WWE NXT. So how do you end up in WWE? And you know, I like the other question, how was your experience over there?
So, like I said, man, Japan changed my life. It changed a lot of the ways I did things. It tested my ability as an athlete, and I think it also got me in the best shape of my life. So when I got back from Japan, I had my match with Adam Cole at FOW, which really got a lot of views and put me on the map, and was to this day one of my best matches, probably top 5 for sure. And I started getting calls, you know, and they called me as an extra to do some NXT work in 2013. And then they kept calling, you know, which was really awesome. And sometimes they'd use me, sometimes they wouldn't. And then I got to do a couple live shows, a couple dark matches for a live show in Pensacola. I basically went on a 6-day tour with them in the beginning of 2014, I want to say. I got to sign a part-time deal, which was pretty awesome.
It is.
And then I was a part of their tapings, and then fast forward to 2016, I was an alternate in the Cruiserweight Classic, which was absolutely awesome and unbelievable, man, and got to do so much stuff and learn so much stuff. And then in 2008, you know, or 2018, parted ways and headed to Costa Rica, man, and that was it. But NXT was a really, really good time, and I learned a lot, and that was obviously, you know, as a kid, you know, back to when I was 13, watching that St. Valentine's Day Massacre, you know, saying I want to wrestle, you know, I want to wrestle. I didn't even say I want to wrestle for WWF and WWE. I mean, that was too high, too big of a dream, you know, and for me to actually wrestle for them on several occasions, sign a part-time deal, you know, to this day, you can look up my last name on the network and my matches will always pop up. So for as long as that network exists, at least
and the people
Peacock took it over, but outside of the U.S. On the network, you know, I'll always be embedded on the network. So that's something that you can't take away from me. And,
No, of course not.
I'm proud of it, you know. So.
The people
really
talk very good about your matches. I was scouting, looking for some matches of you, and I see something from MLW, and the comments that they give to other wrestler was very good, but you was every time in the high position.
Yeah, I have. I mean, for the most part, I have a lot of supporters. I have a lot of followers. I have a big Turkish following. I think because I'm the first and only Turkish guy to make it to a national level like that. So, and I also represent my country. You know, like some of these Turkish guys that wrestle all over the world, they don't even say they're from Turkey, which is crazy to me because that's so different and unique.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I always tell guys like I'm no better than anybody. I'm just different. I do things differently. I move differently. I look differently. So it's just about being different, you know, and that's what I try to teach guys to this day.
So,
Absolutely.
so from the states, you like you said, you moved to Costa Rica. When you moved to Costa Rica, it was wrestling related.
Absolutely not wrestling related. So, I mean, at this point, we're talking about 17, 18 years into the business, and
Mm-hmm.
I was happy, man. I made money. I wrestled for the biggest companies in the world. I was still young. I was married. So I was like, hey, let's go to Costa Rica, and I wouldn't say retire, but I would say maybe a long break I was ready for. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, we got to talk at this point, 18 years consistently, every
Yeah,
single weekend, sometimes twice on
You
Sundays.
never
Uh,
get a break in
like a
that
full
18
rest.
years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
18 years, I've wrestled every weekend, sometimes from Thursday to Sunday, twice on Sunday. I miss homecoming. I miss my prom at high school.
You
I
were in the road
sacrificed.
every time.
I sacrificed a lot. So, um, yeah, I sacrificed a lot for the wrestling, and that's just what it takes. But at the same time, you have to do that, you know, in this
Mm-hmm.
business. And you're right, like I haven't had off at all, you know, 18 years, so it was nice. I was going to take a long break, and that being said, you know, never with the intention to retire. Always wanted to go back to Japan or back to the States eventually or somewhere to wrestle, but I didn't know where. And then GWE had called me.
And that was the next question. Yeah. So talk to us about how you ended up in GWE in Panama.
Well, I had a couple of guys that I knew, like MVP, wrestled here
Mm-hmm.
prior, and they told me about a company because I still had the itch. You know, I was still am in the best shape and ready to go at full tank of gas. You know, no issues. So I think I messaged GWE. They called me back, and they booked me for a show. And I came out here, and automatically, you know, gave me the top spot, pushed me, and you know, this guy didn't know anything about me, didn't know to work with me, maybe saw some old stuff, but you know, gave me an opportunity, and I appreciated that. And you know, next thing you know, I'm having 5-star matches with Crush. You know, in my opinion, some of the better matches as well. I put that on the top 5 list. Just a lot of moving parts, and we told a good story in the matches themselves. So it was really good, and I kept coming, and I'd hop on a bus, you know, every other weekend, and I do these shows here in Panama. And then he pitched the idea that, you know, because COVID hit, that once COVID is over or slows down, why don't we get the academy going up again, and me be a full-time worker here? So we came to an agreement, and so far so good, man. But that's what got me here in Panama. I'm living in the city. You know, I'm loving life. I love what I do. You know, I train every day. I'm poolside sometimes. I'm tanning. I'm training the kids, you know, and I love Panama City. I'm trying to pick up my Spanish, but un poco. So
That's fine. Maybe in the future, maybe we can try to do an interview in Spanish with you when we practice. You know,
oh,
I
that's
practice
gonna
my
be
English.
that's gonna be the not the near future, very long term future.
That's fine. That's fine. Hey,
Yeah.
Omar.
And now we are going to questions as you as a fan. What are your 5 wrestlers of the U.S. of all time? If you have a top 5
Your top favorite of all time. You know, in your
Top
opinion.
5 opponents
wrestlers
or
of all
top
time.
5?
No, top 5 wrestlers of all time for you.
Bruno Sammartino, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Triple H.
I like that list.
You have a little bit of everything: entertainment, good wrestling, a heel, a good storyteller. You have everything.
I would have to put Randy Orton somewhere on there. So maybe top six. But
Okay, yeah.
I'm a big, like I said, man, I love the wrestling stuff, but I love the entertainment stuff too. And I love the believability, and there's certain guys that do that great. And
Randy is a very good guy at that.
And that's who I study, and that's who I like to watch, but it's no knock to anybody else. There's a lot of good wrestlers and workers out there, but yeah, that's definitely my top 5, 6.
And of the rest of the world, you have a top 5?
The rest of the world, I would have
to put, like Japan, Mexico, or something.
Shibata on that list, Otani on that list, Kenny Omega on that list, Super Crazy in his prime on that list.
Oh, what's a very good one?
Blue Demon Jr. for sure.
Oh,
I like that list.
Yeah.
Like you tell us, a couple of times, you have a 20+ wrestling career, right? And you wrestle a lot of, people that, that maybe was on your bucket list. But at this point of your career, do you still have dream matches that you want to accomplish?
Of course I have dream matches, man. I mean, I want to wrestle the top guy at WrestleMania one day. Like I still dream, but at the end of the day, my dream match is like, I don't go on social media. I don't do a wish list. I don't beg for opponents. Like,
no. Yeah.
If the promoter wants to book me in a match against anybody, like, to me, I can make
you are prepared.
Match. I'm prepared. I don't have somebody that I would single-handedly call out and say, hey, I want to work this guy or that guy. Just I want to continue to travel the world and do the best that I can do, and hopefully I'll meet up with that guy or maybe I'll surpass that person. But I don't have truly any dream opponents, man. I have people that I'd like to work with for sure, but hopefully that happens one day. I don't name names. I don't want to make a list, but I keep training at a high level, wrestling at a high level. I keep traveling. Panama is not my final destination, but I want to leave it better than I found it for sure, and that's what I feel like I'm doing.
No, and definitely you will. And something, I like your response better than naming a dream match, to be honest with you. Because something, at the end of the day, if you do a good performance, it doesn't matter with who, that's what this is all about. So
yeah, and you are prepared for everyone.
Yeah, no, honestly, I feel like I can wrestle with the best of them right now. I feel like I have been training at a high level, entertainment-wise, my mic skills. Like, I honestly, I feel like I could wrestle with the best of them. And I hope I get that opportunity someday soon.
Okay. We're going to have the last question of this interview, and then we'll let you go. But this is a section that we have. It's called in Spanish, the Toma y Dame. This is more like a rapid-fire questions. In these cases, we're going to name a person or a company, and with one word or phrase, you will tell us what you think. Hey, this is no, we're not gonna throw dirt on anybody. That's not our intention. You will see. For example,
all right,
number one, MVP.
Oh, bro, mentor, amazing, aspiring. I mean, this guy is an inspiration to all. Like, what he's been through in life. You said one word answer. I'm sorry, but
no. You can tell whatever you want from the heart.
Mentor, friend, trainer, guy who's really helped me along the way, guy who's killed the business. I mean, to this day, he's still a top player on the top TV
now
show.
As manager, he's being a great one.
still to this day, top manager, top performer, top athlete on the top show for the top company in the world, man. Kudos to him. And I can't wait to get him back here in Panama, man. It's going to be great. But definitely great guy and phenomenal talent. What an addition to WWE.
Yeah, let me put it this way. When in the beginning of 2020, before the COVID, you have a Bobby Lashley having an awful storyline in a wedding, in a go-home edition before a Royal Rumble, and then weeks later, you have MVP, like his manager. Within a year, he's the champion, Bobby Lashley. And this is something that, this is story and stuff like that, but have the presence of MVP help him to go to the next level. So he is
He put Lashley in the top of the map.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like I don't like to comment a lot on the storylines and stuff,
No, of course,
and
yeah.
I'm not one to diss the storylines, but at the end of the day, putting them with MVP was definitely a career changer for sure, 100%.
So going to the second name, Alex G.
Oh, another good guy, man. Big part of my life. Trainer, helped me out a lot at Rusty Brook School, taught me a lot. And still to this day, whenever I travel to Florida, I try to see him. But great guy, man. And his knowledge for the business, just so smart, so smart.
Ooh.
Rusty Brooks.
Legend, man. Legend. So the guy that has done a lot in this business. If it wasn't for him, man, I wouldn't be where I'm at. He believed in me, when nobody else would. He took in a 16-year-old kid that was about 100 pounds soaking wet and believed in me and kept pushing me. And the days that I felt like I was going to quit, he'd be like, just keep pushing, man. You're going to make something. And I'm really sad to see him go. I know he was dealing with some problems and dialysis and stuff. But such a good guy and such a big part of my career in life. And they recently had his memorial show, and I was really pissed that I couldn't be there, man, in the U.S. But just with COVID times and Panama travel, it's a little bit tough. But great guy, man. Legend in this business, an icon, somebody that's going to be missed, and definitely the wrestling world has lost a great player and is not the same without.
Cool. Norman Smiley.
Oh, genius, bro. Genius. This guy also, man, you guys are naming everyone that assisted my training.
Hey, we do our research. I told you.
It was, yeah, you guys do. And it was an honor training with him, in the early days. And he taught me a lot. And I used to study him when he worked at WCW, and pretty much his character work and the big smiley and all the footwork. And then getting to work with him again years down the road at NXT. I mean, what a blessing. But that guy's another guy, man. Just the knowledge for this business, smart guy, and hell of a worker in his prime, man.
Oh yeah, I watching him in the WCW era, it was fun watching him, especially that you have a humongous roster in WCW, and and try to fit in with getting one TV spot with the NWO when they took over, having Norman Smiley, it was a refresher. Okay, this is something different than the NWO angle, so
Yeah.
Tommy Wrestling,
bro. Tommy Wrestling, man. Great guy. Great on the mic. Great mic skills. I'll give him that.
Crush.
Hard worker, man. Hard worker. A lot of potential. Young, hungry, and gets this business. He understands this business, and he works really hard. There's still things that he needs to learn, but that's said about everybody. I mean, I'm 20 years in the business. I'm still learning something new every day. But definitely a top talent here in Panama, and would not be surprised to see him succeed outside of Panama.
Hugo Sabinovich.
Smart guy, knowledgeable, one of the best commentators. I mean, like I said, he was commentating that match that got me hooked, Austin versus Stone Cold, when I was 13. So it's been an honor to work with him. Very smart guy, knows what he's doing. I think he's helping GWE out a lot. Definitely helping Pascal with more the promoter stuff, not just the business stuff. So I like that he's involved, and just a smart guy, man. And he's doing big things, and he's also a pastor. So he's just a really good guy, and I enjoy working with him.
Oh, Adam Six.
Adam Six, man, a lot of potential. Needs to train a little bit more. I know it's a little bit hard for these guys with their work and COVID and stuff like that, but him as well as a lot of these guys, man, they're good. They have a lot of potential. It's just the little things that you need to work on. You got to get them TV ready now. Everybody wants to go out there and do moves, and it's about being on TV. But Adam Six is a good hand, an asset to Anarchy Squad, and he has potential, man. Give him a couple years, the right training, the right motivation, and he could be something.
Ricky Fisher.
Ricky Fisher, man, one of my favorites, dude. I like that guy's hard work and ethic.
It's one of our favorites too.
I like that he's a Japanese wrestling fan. He studies the craft for 3 years in, which is still new, and only 90 matches. He's very good. nothing negative to say about that guy. He's a hard worker. He's a good guy. Some of these guys, not Ricky Fisher, but some of these guys sometimes will have attitudes and stuff like that. And just the resume doesn't match the attitude. But it has nothing to do with Ricky. Ricky's a good guy. He comes to training. He trains on time. He trains every day. I mean, that kid puts in work. And, him, like a lot of guys here, when you go to training, you show up and you do what you're supposed to do. I'd like to see them succeed. And if I was ever in a position to pull for them or push them, I would definitely do it.
Okay. Right. So what about Samoa, for instance?
Samoa's a guy, all these guys you're mentioning, like the whole GWE locker room, they have potential, man. They have size or they have skill. They just need to put together the little pieces. Some of these guys need to train more. And I know it's a job thing, but if you take this business serious and you want to not just be a hobby and maybe a career and in WWE one day, you need to take it serious and come to training more. And it's not a knock on Samoa or anybody like that. I mean, these guys have jobs and it's COVID. But I think everybody, including Samoa, has a lot of potential. I just think they need to capitalize on the potential and come train and let me teach you what the big time look for, or be content in the indies working for one show in Panama and not going anywhere outside of that. But for some of these guys, it's a hobby, and for other guys, it's a career, and we want to make something out of it. But the entire GWE locker room has potential. I mean, you guys can go up and down the roster all you want. Some maybe more than others, but at the end of the day, they're only going to continue to get better, especially the guys that continue to train and put in the effort and kind of ditch the ego or the attitude and realize, I'm here to help you guys because, I'm not really benefiting anything from this. I want you guys to get better, and I want to leave it better than I found it. Cool. But these guys all have potential, man. And, a couple of years, they continue to train. They continue to work on the small stuff, like the entertainment aspect, the mic work, working the hard cam, stuff like that. But they'll be able to go places. That and they need a visa. But let's pray.
Yeah.
The Anarchy Squad.
Anarchy Squad, man. Probably one of the most badass groups in South Central America.
I agree.
I think in all Latin America.
Yeah, in this point,
In all Latin America.
I like the Anarchy Squad, man. I thought it was a really good idea to put me with those guys, and I like what we're doing, man. Everybody kind of clicks, and we all have our own thing, and when it's time to kick ass, we kick ass, and it's known to the fans. So, when I came here and I joined Anarchy, they knew that I was an asshole, and it was a big, tall sign. But I love working with those guys. I love working with everybody in the GWE, man, for the most part. The guys that show up and train and want to get better, and the guys that have egos and think they've been wrestling 15 years and don't have to train. But 15 years of what? Of Panama wrestling? Sorry.
Yeah, I think these industries change a lot. There's unfortunately, not only in Panama, there's other places that they're still 20 plus years behind. So
it's all over the world. It's all over the world. I have dealt with this all over the world. It's just crazy to me because Panama also, although it is a cheaper country and maybe a more of a poorer country, the rates for the wrestling school here and what he does for his older students and the break that they get on the rates is a steal. And for these guys to some of them still not want to train is mind blowing to me, because in other companies like in Japan, WWE, MLW, if you don't train, you don't get booked. It's just a safety issue. I'm not going to wrestle anybody that doesn't train, because if we have to go more than 10 minutes and you blow up, you could drop me on my head. So It's also not only to make you better, but to help the opponent out.
It's to protect your opponent.
Right, to protect your opponent. So, I wish guys weren't like that. It's not everybody here. It's not everybody around the world, but you do have those guys. And, I wish them the best. It is what it is. They're going to do what they do, and I'm going to continue to do what I do.
With one word and one phrase, can you describe Alejandro Pascual?
One word or one phrase. Smart businessman. Selfish at times. Smart businessman. But in order to be a good businessman, you got to be selfish sometimes. So I can't take that away from him. But smart guy, knows what he's doing. Changed the Panama game. I know this is more than one phrase, one word.
You can say it. Don't worry.
Change the Panama game. I mean, he's the only company currently running in Panama, the only school that's allowing safe instruction in a wrestling ring, 2 wrestling rings, Wi-Fi showers. I mean, his facility is like a mini performance center. So plus you got me training out of there. So he's a smart guy, man, and he knows what he's doing. And as long as he continues to believe in the product and push the product as much as he did with his other businesses, this will definitely succeed.
GWE.
Great company, has a lot of potential. Still needs help in certain aspects. You know, Pascal sometimes tries to do everything by himself when he could use the help, and we're here to help him. But overall, good company, man. On the verge of maybe being a bigger company, have some streaming TV deals and stuff. But the locker room also got to get behind it, and you know, it's a team effort. Not one person is gonna make the company. Everybody has to do a better job in the ring and behind the scenes. I think at times it could be a little unorganized, but at the end of the day, it's still one of the better indie companies that I've worked for in my 20 years. You know, it's like you've seen worse for sure. I mean, I've seen better because I've been to the top companies, but Pascal's doing a good job overall, and this company has big potential to go places as long as everybody focuses all their efforts on the company itself and not outside stuff getting involved.
Okay. And last but not least, Vandal.
I mean, dude, almost 36 years old. August, I'll be 36, and I'm still having some of the best matches in my life, story-wise, wrestling-wise. I'm still training at a high level. I still wrestle at a high level. I'm still in contact with a lot of other companies outside of Panama. And like I said, I want to continue to travel the world, man. I don't really have one word to describe me. I would say I'm a constant. I'm consistent. You know, in 20 years, a lot of people have come and a lot of people have gone. And, you know, I started 2001. I mean, I started when most of the GWE locker room was in diapers.
Yeah,
You're
right.
So at the end of the day,
you're still active.
and I'm still active at a high level, you know, and I have a lot in the gas tank. So, you know, I don't know, man. Just continue to work hard and continue to push and train these kids and, you know, get them to the next level, get them to be main event players and world travelers, and really just leave Panama better than I found it. And hopefully this GWE takes off, and who knows, could be the next AAA, CMLL. It just needs all the right players and the right people and the right opportunity to push behind it. But it has potential. But as far as me, man, I'm just going to keep doing me and keep pushing forward.
Cool. Well, this is the last 2 questions, and this is it, Omar.
You still have a lot of wrestling years in your career, but when you retire, you want the legacy that you leave behind.
That's tough, man, because 36, I've been wrestling 20 years. I haven't even thought of retirement because I'm still doing it at a high level. The legacy I want to leave behind, man, is just, you know, I was one of the more entertaining wrestlers. I think, you know, anybody that wrestles me gets better or learns a lot from. And I don't know, man, I haven't really thought of a legacy I want to leave behind. I don't really want to leave yet, so I haven't really thought of leaving behind anything, but just leaving the sport better than I found it, you know, like
that is a great one. That is a great legacy.
That's a fair answer. You know, yeah, we definitely understand. So, hey, last question. So, what advice do you want to share to someone that wants to be part of the wrestling business, but maybe he's afraid of, you know, of failure in the business?
I mean, you can't be afraid of failure. My advice would be, you know, do what you want, you know, just know that it's going to take hard work no matter what you want to do. If it's being a pro wrestler or luchador, lucha libre, it's going to take a lot of hard work. But if you're willing to work, man, there's going to be a lot of haters. And the more successful you get, the more haters there are going to be. But the only one that's going to stop you from doing anything is you. So if you want to do something, man, go do it. You know, when I was 16 years old, I had the entire world told me I'd never make it to WWE, and I ended up signing with them. So it's a crazy world, and you don't know if you're not, you know, you don't try, and you're never too old to dream.
Never say never
young to dream. never say never, man. So yeah, my advice would be no matter what you want to do in life, just don't listen to anybody and work hard for it and do it.
Cool. Hey, thank you, for, spending, your time with us. It's been an honor, to tell us your story, your career so far, because your career is not over yet. To people that want to know more about Vandal, what's your social media? You have a YouTube page, or, the mic is yours.
You guys can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I have social media. It's at J, the letter J, and then Vandal with the number 1. I'm active on social media. I don't have a YouTube page. I don't have a Facebook, but you can find me on Instagram or Twitter or the GWE page. They post a lot of stuff about me. Follow GWE. Follow the GWE Academy. We do some really cool drills. If you have a wrestling school and you want to steal some of our drills, feel free. Or vice versa. We'll exchange ideas. So
why not?
Yeah, but that's where you can reach me. And I appreciate the support. And I appreciate the hate. Everything's good. Everything's good. I appreciate all of it because no matter what, they're watching. Whether they hate me or love me, they're still watching.
That means that you are doing a great work.
That's right, man. Well, thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate it. That was the last question?
Yeah, that was the last question. So again, if you want to know more about Vandal and what's going on with his career right now, go to his social media, in Instagram and Twitter, or go to the GWE social media so you can see everything that's going on every Saturday in Panama. And coming soon, you will see more of their matches in YouTube or any new streaming deal that we're working on. So follow Trifulca Wrestling Media, in Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and thank you to all the country that keep supporting us, in Latin America, putting on in the podcast charts and in YouTube. So Vandal, Omar, and Alex, this is it for tonight.
Thank you guys, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.